Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to do an oil change on a Triumph Tiger 900 Rally Pro. We're also going to show what tools you need and the parts that you'll need in order to accomplish that, as well as how to reset the service wrench indicator on the display. As with any oil change, you want to warm the bike up to operating temperature so that any contaminants that are in the oil are suspended. That way when you drain it, you'll get as much of the contaminants out of the motorcycle as possible before putting in fresh oil. So let's get this thing warmed up and we'll do an oil change back at the shop. All right, so back at the shop, I was going to go over a few things that you're going to need for your oil change. Depending on what type of oil you want to run, it's going to be 10W40 or 10W50, just depending on what your choice is. The 50 does a little bit better in higher temperatures, and we're going down to the desert where, you know, we're always looking at 100 plus in Death Valley, because of course it's Death Valley. And one other thing I'm going to show you, since I have it up on my phone, if you don't have this already, you really want to get this app. It's a subscription service for the motorcycle, and this has like all the recalls as well as the service manuals. So I'll just pull up the service manual, the information for doing the oil change, so you can just see it. So we're going to go to routine maintenance and oil filter renew, they call it. And this is going to show you the steps. And what are you doing? Okay, don't know what that was. Anyway, this shows you the steps for you know, changing your oil. It gives you your warnings and stuff. You do have to remove the sump guard. Okay, this if you click on the aluminum sump guard removal, that'll go over the steps needed to take off the OEM sump guard. But I have an aftermarket guard. Some of you may have chosen a different brand, so I'm not going to go into how to remove that specific part. You'll just have to refer to either the service manual if it's an OEM sump guard, or the instructions for whichever aftermarket part you got. And as you'll see, warm up the engine thoroughly. Okay, that's to make sure that all of the contaminants are suspended in the oil so that when you drain it, they're actually coming out of the engine. And then you just scroll through and it will tell you how to do each step and, you know, drain it out, fill it up, do your torques and all that stuff. Okay, so we'll go over that in this video. That's a good manual to have. Unfortunately, you can't do a print manual anymore, so you have to use the triumphtechnicalinformation.com website and subscribe based on your VIN. But it is always up to date, so if there's ever any changes or there's ever any recalls or service bulletins, things like that, they will show up. A couple other things you're going to need is, depending on what type of filter you use, here I have the OEM, the Triumph filter, and this one came with my 12,000 mile service kit. If you're going to use this one, you will need an oil filter wrench. This goes onto a 3/8 drive ratchet, and it goes on there so that you can do the torque or installation by feel, if that's how you want to do it. This one is a 65 millimeter. It also does 67, but the 65 is the one you're using, a little bit smaller one. There are other strap wrenches that you could use, but this will give you the most accurate torque. So you'll need one of those. I picked that one up at AutoZone. It wasn't very much. Triumph oil filters are good. I like them. But there's a reason why I actually go with the high flow Filtro they're called racing oil filters. Really, I think the only thing that makes it racing is that it comes with an ability to safety wire the filter so it doesn't loosen up over time. The part number for that is HF204RC. If you want just the regular version, I believe it's HF204. You just don't put the RC on there. It's apparently for racing. But yeah, what that does is it gives you kind of like K&N filters, where they have the hexagonal lug, and you can use a wrench to actually tighten or loosen it, as well as use a 17 millimeter socket and torque wrench. If you're going to do torque for your oil change, I usually do, because I know they say, you know, you can just hand feel it, and if I was on the road I would, but if I'm in the shop, I have a tendency to want to really crank down on filters. So I like to use the torque wrench. It just keeps me in check so I don't destroy my oil filter or my bike. But like I say, this one has a little hole through both sides of this lug, and you can safety wire this to the bike, and it's always in a tightening fashion. So when you pull your safety wire, you want to make sure that you're tightening, the safety wire is tightening the filter so that it won't come loose. And I'll show you that later, because that is the one I'm going to use. Like I said, you can choose from a range of different oils, as long as it's the right grade, and it has to be 4T. I think that has something to do with the fact that it's okay for wet clutches. So most motorcycles, obviously a Google search is going to tell you what your manufacturer recommends, or the websites for whatever oil you decide to use. There's a lot of good oils. I actually used to use Motul, and I may switch back to that, not because I dislike Liqui-Moly at all. I really do like it. It's super stable on the temperatures, but it's just really hard to find, and having to mail order like oil it makes it kind of pricey. I can get Motul at just about any motorcycle shop in town. The other thing I haven't really touched on, but the torque wrench, if you do decide to do torque, you will need a torque wrench that is capable of doing 10 Newton meters and 25 Newton meters. The oil filter is torqued on at 10 Newton meters, and the drain plug is 25 Newton meters. Obviously, most of us in at least America use inch pounds, and you can convert that pretty easy on your phone. But the book calls out Newton meters, so I just stick with that. It's already scaled on my wrench, so I just plug it in. But sometimes, if I'm interested how many inch pounds it takes, I can calculate that with a little app. So that is the things that you will need. And if there's any questions about any of the parts I chose, please put it down in the comments. I'm pretty good about responding to you guys, because I really do want this to be informative for you. Obviously, I've done a few oil changes, and you know, it's easy for me because I can just go through it without the book. But not everybody's done that, or they're just new to this type of motorcycle, and they're just curious kind of how easy it is. Another thing, I guess, before I go is resetting the service indicator. I've got another video on this. There's a couple of videos because the app, and I have just a burner phone that I use. I don't know if you can see it here, but I have the Tune ECU app. Okay, you can download that from the Google Play Store. I don't think it's free anymore. It used to be free. So downloading it from the Google Play Store is where you get it. It does not work on an iPhone so far. Unfortunately, because I think a lot of people use iPhones and they're kind of bummed that it doesn't work with anything but Android. But a burner phone's pretty cheap. I use it just around the shop because I don't mind if it gets broken or anything. Plus, it uses this. I also use an OBD Link LX Bluetooth dongle, as they call it. It's basically a code reader or code scanner. If you're used to that, it works on cars too. So I really like this one. I use it on my wife's Audi A4. I also use it on my 2012 Jeep Liberty. Every car sold in America has an OBD2 connector. That's required by law, actually. So picking up a code reader, you can scan the codes and just see, you know, why your check engine light is on or something like that. Or you can use it to reset the service wrench indicator on a Triumph motorcycle. The particulars on that do change. You do have to log in, and on the TuneECU app, you have to go to like their message board or something and create an account, and then you have to link your VIN to the app. And you're allowed, I think, for the consumer version of the software, like 5 bikes, or you can pay for the commercial version, and you can have unlimited motorcycles attached to it. That's going to be something you really do need to go to the website and see what the changes are. I try to answer those questions as best I can on that, but the problem is I have no control over the app, and my experience is pretty limited as far as what you can and can't do with it. I know people have asked about balancing throttle bodies. I know that you can read that information, but I've never balanced throttle bodies. So at this point, the only thing I use it for is resetting the service wrench indicator. But there is more you can do with it, but we're not getting into that. So, all right, let's get on the bike and drain the oil. Storage stuff. First thing we're going to do, now that we add all our parts together, we're going to put this up on the center stand. And we're going to go ahead and start taking off the skid plate. Once again, I'm not going to show that because yours may vary. Even if it is the OEM version, you are going to have to take it off. I'm using the TourTech. There's no way to access the drain plug or the filter. With that, they're both covered, so we're going to take the skid pan off, and then we'll get to draining the oil. All right, a couple other things I failed to mention of what you'll need. You will need an 8mm Allen wrench or socket, as well as a drain bucket. So we got our skid plate off, and we've located the drain plug, which I've already loosened, but loosen this up with a 8mm. Another thing you might consider picking up is some protective gloves, and we're going to drain that oil out. Oop, lost my little crush washer. Gonna have to dig that out. Okay, we'll let that drain, and then we'll move on to changing out the oil filter, which is located right there in the front. And as you can see, I have my safety wire. This is how we'll safety wire it back. If you notice, if I were to pull on the safety wire, it would cause this to tighten. That's what it's meant by a tightening fashion, okay? So that's what it's going to look like when we get done. In order to take this off, you just cut it with some wire cutters, like dikes, diagonal cutters, whatever you want to call them, and then just take your wrench and unscrew it. Cut the safety wire off, and I like to actually remove it, which in my case I need to, because I'm going to use a socket, a wrench, to take this off. So kind of unwind it a little bit. It's easier if you use both hands. Snip it, pull it out, dispose. Then we're going to use our 17mm wrench, and And we are going to remove our old oil filter. And it's going to bleed everywhere. It's fine. We'll try to clean it up as best we can before restarting the engine so we don't have that nasty burnt oil smell. Yeah, that filter's got some miles on it. Alright, so we're here trying to kind of wipe off all the oil that gets everywhere. It's kind of inevitable. I mean, you can put stuff underneath the filter before you take it off, and that helps, but it's not 100%. You still end up having to wipe everything down. So, and it will stink a little bit when it burns off. One thing you do want to make sure you wipe off, get all the dirt and stuff, is the sealing surface for the oil filter, and that would be that big area right around the edge where the filter goes. Be careful if you're having to clean old gasket material off or anything like that, not to use metallic tools, because if you scratch this sealing surface, you're pretty much destined to have leaks until it gets resurfaced. Alright, so we got a new washer for our drain plug. We'll go ahead and reinstall that. And torque it to 25 Newton meters. Okay, doesn't take much. We're going to reinstall or install our new oil filter. Make sure to put a little bit of oil on the O-ring. You can use new oil if you want. Just really coating that. Now we're going to spin that on. And we'll reset our torque wrench down to 10 Newton meters. Since that's all right, there we go. So that's done. If you're using a filter that doesn't need safety wire, or you just choose not to use it, this would be the point where you just finish cleaning up as best you can all the oil that kind of got all over your parts, and then just top it off with 3 fresh quarts of oil. Then we're gonna put some oil in. I'm using the Liqui Moly Off-Road Race 10W50. There's choices, like I said. This one is what I'm using right now. One thing I do like about this one is you'll notice when you pop this cap off, you pull straight up. Look at that. So pull it and give it a good snap. You don't want to pull that out, but that makes it really easy to get the oil down inside without a funnel, which is always good. Takes a little longer though. So we'll put our 3 quarts in. We'll check the oil level. We'll start it up. Check the oil level again, check for leaks, and then put our skid plate back on. And then if you want to hang around, I'll show you how to do the safety wire. Alright, got our new oil and filter in. We're going to go ahead and start this up. We're going to let it run for about 30 seconds. That gives it time for all the oil to get where it needs to be. We're going to shut it off, and then we're going to check the oil level. You're going to do that obviously by your manufacturer's instructions. But for the Triumph Tiger, you got a little sight glass, like most motorcycles, and you'll make sure it's at the appropriate level. Check for leaks. It looks good. I'm going to go ahead and safety wire this thing. you want to stay around for that, please do. And then we'll get the skid plate back on and we'll reset the service interval. So I'll just let you know right now, the wrench is not on mine. I actually changed the oil in it about 2,500 miles ago. And so I reset it then because that's when I did my 12,000 mile service on this. But the steps are the same. I will show you on the display where it shows, you know, how many miles until next service, and you'll see that reset once I'm done. So, all right, thanks for joining. I hope you'll stick around to see the rest of it. Once again, I do this just for information. I don't get paid, so any products you saw here are strictly just my choice. I don't get paid. I'm not sponsored. They don't give me free swag, nothing like that. So, for those of you that are leaving, good luck. For everybody else, all right. So hopefully you guys can see well enough. I tried to get a good position on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to safety wire from the crash bar to the filter in a tightening fashion, so that if you were to pull on the wire between here, it would only make the filter tighten, not loosen. Okay. So one thing we have here is 32 thousandths diameter safety wire. That's pretty standard. It's not cheap. It'll probably cost more than you think it should, but that's what we get. And then these are safety wire pliers. These have a lock to where when you squeeze in, you engage the lock and then you can let it go. And it will hold onto your wire here, and then you use this knob, and as you pull out, it will twist the pliers, causing it to twist. You can also do this by hand, which is fine. I've done plenty of safety wire by hand. Sometimes you actually have to, but here should be okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to pull this through, and I'm going to even up my ends so it's about equal. If I can keep hold of it. Okay, nice and tight. Now, initially, I want to wrap around this twice. So, get nice and tight. Okay, then we're going to grab the two ends. Okay, and we're going to go up to the hole that we're going to insert one end through. So that's where you need to measure first. Kind of measure that with your finger or your thumb. And then you're gonna put your pliers on right up to that point, grabbing both strands. Gonna grab them both, and then you're gonna squeeze and engage that lock I showed you. Then you're gonna pull on the knob, and it will do the work for you. Okay. As it gets closer, because this is wide, this is the part where you may want to kind of wrap with the pliers. And that way you get the turns all the way down. Then squeeze your pliers, it'll disengage the lock. Then you're going to come up here. As you can see, it's still a little bit short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off those turns by hand. That way I don't go over. You don't want to go over. Just right up to. So we'll do a couple and then we'll see. That looks just about right for this one. So we're going to stick this one through. And I apologize if the view is not great with my hands in the way. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab that one piece and we're going to pull it tight. Okay? Now you don't have to rip it off, but you want it tight. So that, remember, the long piece pulls this filter in a tightening fashion. You take that other piece, come around the back. We're going to pull it tight, and then we're going to start another twist for our pigtail. Okay, now once I have that started, you can come back here, give it about an inch, inch and a half. And this time we're gonna change direction. I'm gonna make it go to the left. Now, you don't want too many twists. And then kind of swoop that last little bit. You're gonna cut this off right on the turns. And then this is a very important piece right here. Grab the pigtail and give it a nice turn in, so that if you or anybody else were to come and drag your hand across it, the safety wire doesn't cut your finger. Okay, that's it. And now this will keep the filter from coming loose over time. I felt that that was important, especially off-roading and how much vibration that motorcycles have. Any questions on that? Give me a holler. I'll point you in the right direction for maybe a better video for demonstration. Now for the part some of you have been waiting for is how to reset the surface wrench indicator. Like I said, I do have a couple of videos on this already, but I thought I would throw it in here since it is kind of part of the oil change. First thing we're going to do is plug in our OBD link, and it's Bluetooth, so you know, if it's the first time you're using it, you'll probably have to pair it with your phone. I bought this little burner phone, and you'll also need to download the Tune ECU app, as well as register on their message board. So here we go, paired devices, and so we've got the app on. We're going to turn the ignition on, and we're going to place the bike in run. Okay, so then we'll hit ECU. Looks like mine's already connected. Hit the 3 dots. You got things like your web forum. That's where you actually need to register, but that's not what we're doing. I'm going to disconnect and then reconnect for a second. Okay, so once you get all hooked up, you'll hit ECU and then connect. It says connecting to Triumph. Okay, and you'll see that we have the little green flash down here. That means you're connected. And hit ECU again. We're going to go test and adjustments. We're going to scroll down to, maybe it's under, okay, hit adjustments, and then it's under reset service interval. So as you can see, there's other stuff to choose on here also. Like I said, there's more that you can do with it than I know how to do. I haven't really played around with it that much. That's probably something on their website you can do. So before I do that, if you're looking up at this console, you'll see that it says service due 3,890 miles, or in February of 2023. So after we reset it, that will also change. And if you have the wrench on your screen, it will reset. So, okay, so now we've selected reset service interval. Click run. We're going to select miles. Okay. Now, it gives you several options. I always use the 6,000. I think I tried one of the other options once, and it just didn't want to let me use it. So I used the 6,000, and then click OK. And now it says service interval done. So now if you look here, it says 6,000 miles or May of 2023. And if you had the wrench visible, it will be gone. So that's it. it's pretty easy. If you need a little bit more detail on using the app, like I said, I've got some other videos, but you may have to, because they do change once in a while, you may have to actually go and look at the Tune ECU website. That's it. And yeah, as you can see, there's the hectopascals for cylinder 1, 2, and 3. So if you start the engine, it'll give you the RPMs of each cylinder plus the hectopascals. And if you're running this app while you're driving, you can see the I'm sorry, the RPM, the overall RPM here. So maybe that scale is different. But anyway, if you were going to balance throttle bodies, you would look at these three and try to figure that out. But like I say, we're not doing that today. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Like most things electronic, you should always disconnect them the way they're supposed to be disconnected. And you'll see that the light went away. And then we'll go back here. We will unplug our dongle, put the seat back on after we clean up all this mud. That's got to go. Some people will leave this dongle in. You can. And then they can see real-time display of some of the features with this app. Like if they mount their phone, they can see different things. There's different options for just about anything you'd want to look at that goes through the ECU. I don't leave mine plugged in because I don't use it for that. But all right, I hope you like this. You know, I'm not a big like and subscribe guy, but I won't hate you if you do. Appreciate it. Everybody take care.